It's nice. So name is Guy, as in guitar, because as I travel around the world, they say hui, hoi, goi, anything, then I just say Guy as guitar. There you go. Look at that sweet little guy. Everybody, again. There you go. Look at this little happy guy. So I don't know, maybe he's 1.5 or 2 years old.
You just have to forgive the helicopters or my name.
That's okay.
But it will get louder.
I don't mind. And it's gonna start shaking, right?
In certain offices, yes.
So, wow. Can you feel it? So, all my family is in the country. I'm the first city dweller. So I was raised in a kind of no man's land. I wasn't a city person. I wasn't a farming person anymore. And my parents, we'll talk about that a bit later, but then a few years later, there's this guy again.
Oh.
Yeah, but how does he feel?
Oh.
Yeah. The smile is gone. You know, he starts to look worried. And when I started to look at my pictures from childhood, there's one point where I lost my smile. I lost my happiness. I didn't know why. But basically, as school started, I just couldn't connect with people. I would always hide in the corners in the schoolyard and play by myself. And not being able to communicate, that bring on kind of more bullying, because I was just not part of the crowd. So I would spend the days basically hiding in the school library, which was very small. And then one day while I was there reading my Tintin and my comic books from childhood, I felt the presence behind me. And I turned around, and it was this guy. And for me, it was the first time somebody was smiling at me. I felt like, wow, suddenly I've got a friend. So I borrowed the record, and this one is a poet musician. And I took the album and I brought it home, kind of hiding it from my brothers. And I started to listen to it. And then in one of the songs, which is called The Little Happiness, Le Petit Bonheur, he talked about how one day he lost his happiness. And that because of that, he would be, when he was walking in the street, when he was meeting people on the street, he would always cross the street, not to come front to front with people. And when I heard that, I said, oh my, that's my life. That's what I've been doing. So suddenly, music was the first time I could connect to the world out there. So music became very important. And then I started to explore. And then I found Pink Floyd. I don't know if you're a fan of Pink Floyd. And then there's The Dark Side of the Moon, amazing album. And then one night as a teen, I couldn't sleep, by the way. I had to always have the light on. I could only sleep if I was exhausted. And I had the radio turned on. And then one night, I heard this laughter. I thought I'm going crazy. But it was from Pink Floyd's album. Yeah, do you know which one? It's from the album Dark Side of the Moon. But it started to reach something inside of me. And then I went to the record shop. And for there, music became my first voice. And then I sat down at the piano when nobody was there. And I just started to play. So having no voice, suddenly music gave me a voice. Now, do you find that music is important for you? Yeah? Which songs or which kind of music?
It depends on my mood. I like
Yeah.
all genres apart from.
And actually, I like you until I saw country music live. And then suddenly that changed. But for the longest time, punk was like, whoa, I just loved it. Because it just kind of moved. And then I started journaling. Do some of you keep a journal? All right. I'm still doing it. You know, this is my 50th or 60th, I don't know how many there are. But this is all over the years. And my journals was a way to finally start to express whatever was inside.
Do you ever go back to them and read them again?
To write my book, I spent basically a year doing research on my life just to kind of reconnect all the tools I used to get back in touch with myself, with my feelings. I keep them preciously, but I didn't go back until I wanted to write the book. But I don't sound dramatic, but I was so much out of touch with my life and myself that keeping these books were the only thing keeping me alive, because they were my lifeline. So I didn't read them, but having them made that, I'm sure I exist, because there's a physical proof out there. And one thing leading to another, I went to art school. So from music was my first salvation, you could say, the first voice I found, then writing, and then I went to art school. But in my first painting class, the teacher said, okay, I want to know you, I want to know who you are, so there's no theme. Just do something, just express yourself what you like. And I look at my brush and the paper, and it's like, I have nothing to say. Going to art school with nothing to say. So basically I just painted black lines, which kind of became like bars. Eventually, I started a wood carving. Some of you do art, painting or drawing, or no, not really?
Yes.
Kind of, yeah. And so out of nowhere, this is a wood cut, and I don't know if you can see, what can you see from where you are? There's like somebody behind the bars. Puis comme il y a beaucoup de français ici, c'est pas bien écrit. Défense d'afficher, which in English would be no posting, I guess. So when you have a wall and there's a sign that says no posting. So basically the wall with the sign of don't express yourself, no posting, and the wall suddenly became bars of me behind it. But everybody said, 1, 2, 3. More. I found clay. That's why some of you guys like circus guys. It's not mental. You're getting into your body. And then when you get into your body, you just feel whatever. That's my interpretation. What do you think? Or are you like really in your head when you do circus stuff?
It's a mix.
Some mix of it.
But maybe more in the body.
More in the body. So when I found clay was the first time that I didn't think anymore. And it became a very physical, sensual experience. And I don't know if you can see, but I did these are 5, they're about, this size. And this is all instinctual, like no thinking at all. I was just playing around with the clay, and so these are not cast. But it's basically 5-person, but in one continuous movement. So from being totally lying down, and also the texture, like it's very rough, it's very raw, it's kind of painful. And then he slowly, it's more of a he, because there's no feminine forms. Then until he finally rises up. But he has no face, so no mouth to speak, no eyes to look. He has no arms. So not the possibility of going into action. And it's only until recently I saw that he has no sex. You know, I never thought about that. Like Greek sculpture, I guess they have something there. But it's like, oh, okay, so. And I called it victory. So then I felt I was more or less the middle one. Meaning that once you're in that position, you can either go left from your side, which is kind of falling apart, or maybe you can start to rise up, becoming more confident. And while I was making that, so for those who've worked with clay before, you've worked with clay, okay, kind of there's a technique, right? It kind of dries, you have to kind of keep it wet, kind of stuff. And as I worked, that was the maquette, the small scale model. So as I was kind of manipulating it, suddenly I just kind of, okay, I didn't like the angle, so I just kind of pushed it, and then it ripped. And I just had to leave it like that. It just called to something inside of me. By this time, I had no idea. My journal was the only person, you could say, I could speak to. Bullying kept going at school. Family say the same thing also. And then I won a contest for a statue in the park. So this is like 1980s. So that's like what, 45 years ago. And it's just, again, it's just instinct. I don't know if you can see from there, kind of. And it's a walking man. You know, it's just the 2 legs, the arms, and then a little head. So it's like the other figure, but this time he has arms, and this time there's a motion. And I called him the warrior. And later it became a symbol that I pushed on, like a, not a soldier, but in an armor. What do you call that?
Nice.
Yeah, like a knight, you know, in my protection. So I had no mouth, I had no ears, I couldn't really do any actions, but somehow I was blessed to keep going forward. I'm just very lucky for that. I went to Europe, so I finished my studies, and I decided to do a master's degree. And then I said, I need to find a school. So I went and I traveled through Europe. And in Europe, it was like for 2.5 months, I went to Italy by helicopter. You know the show March? Oh, he's gone.
That's fine.
Yeah, you scared him away. He's very sensitive at helicopter. He said, "Oh, they're closing the window. I don't like this." And so I traveled to France, Italy, and then I discovered portrait painting. And I fell in love with the Dutch art. And I came back and I started to make pictures of portraits of people from photos. I was much too shy to have somebody sit in front of me. But I also started to walk throughout the city, as I did in Europe with my camera. But what caught my eye was the homeless people. For no reason at all, it was something I felt. Even today, an hour ago, as I was walking the main Quartier Latin, I came across maybe 10 people begging for money in the street, sitting there under their blankets. There's such a contrast. It's like, do we want to see them or not? So in 1984, I made this painting. This is quite big. It's 6 by 9, or 2 meters by 3 meters. And I don't know if you can see, but it's basically, there's somebody on his knees, and there's a kind of person laying half naked down, and he has a knife. And then this person is the passerby, and he's just like this. And behind you have the movie theater, so that's like right downtown. So there's a story happening there, and who can you identify in this painting? You don't want to identify as the victim. You don't want to identify as the aggressor. So there's not much choice, and then there's this one. What do you do? So I just spoke about the homeless people. What do you do? How do you feel inside when you see the homeless people in the street? Do you just avoid them? Do you say hello? It's an interesting dilemma. So my paintings were asking a question. Basically, I always said that my art is a mirror. Like, I don't care what you think of me or of my work, but I present work that is going to make you look at your own feelings, at your own self. That's what I found my purpose in art was. And then in the back, there's a marquee and a crowd going to the show. So that was my way of saying, well, in our modern society, violence has been turned into a show. We go see movies, there's TV shows about violence and stuff like that. So I felt more and more like, where do I belong in this world? As I grew up, I was, one of my heroes was Gandhi. And I was shocked when I learned about Nelson Mandela and what was happening in South Africa. South Africa. So I don't know if anybody is like that, but this is just somehow how I grew. In 1969, I know this is before, but when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, I was maybe 8 or 9 years old. And then I asked my mom, I said, how can we send people to the moon when half of the world is starving? So somehow there was a seed inside of me. Although I had no voice, although I was hiding, there was something needed to be expressed. Then I went to Amsterdam. So I lived for 4 years in Amsterdam. I did a master's in fine arts. And this is one of the pieces for which I was thrown out of school. I don't know why. Well, I don't know if when I lived in Amsterdam and making my art, there was such an upsurge of creativity. And I just kept on exploring and doing new things in my life, new art. And the teachers just they came and they took me and they said, look, Guy, you know you're working very hard and you're producing a lot of work. That's great. But we don't understand what you're doing. So you must be confused. Yeah, it's my fault. I'm confused as opposed to please explain it to us. Anyway, so this is called Le Petit Théâtre. So since many of you are from Europe, do you recognize these kind of little puppet theater? Yeah, it's kind of a tradition here. And basically I found it in the street. I was just with my bicycle, I took it on my bicycle, and then I just didn't make sure that it stood together, but I didn't repair it and stuff like that. I didn't repaint it. And as I saw it, I saw that it was made from an old baby's crib. And I said, there's so much love. I can imagine a father doing this for his children. So much love in this, not damage, but it was in the garbage now, the paint peeling. And I say, what memories are inside it? I find it was so precious. So what I did is that in Amsterdam you have a street organ music. I don't know how you call that, but the music.
Organ grinders.
Organ grinders.
What do you call it here?
Yeah, in German I'm sure there's a lot of it. It's kind of maybe a north thing, but it's those big things with the and everybody do like that. I'm gonna grind. Wow, I want more. You did good.
Keep going.
And then they would have a tin can, and they go chicka 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 chicka. That's of course asking for money. So. Anyway, so what I did is that I recorded some of that street music, and inside the puppet theater, I put the magnetophone and a speaker, so that as you got close to it, suddenly you start to hear, like a faded memory. So I found that this puppet theater, which was thrown away, abandoned, I felt there was like some magic left inside, and it's only if you're very quiet that you start to hear your precious memories and stuff. And then at the same time, I put these lamps, which is a tungsten lamps. So they're not there to light up the work, you could say, but they're more like the light of awareness. It's like almost like it's attacking the theater. And this was in an abandoned, the installation was in an abandoned cavalry caserne, an old army barrack type of stuff. So basically, as you walk, there was gravel, and then suddenly you would come like hidden. So it's like a little child that's hiding away in the corner, and it's being cornered by these lights. So it's very poetic, very, I wouldn't say aggressive, but it's kind of, there's something happening there that needs to be called to attention. Now, what do you see there? I'm curious. What do you make up there?
See chaos in the crib.
Chaos in the crib, thank you.
The baby alone crying.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I like that.
Potential coming out of the child.
What is that, Jim?
Potential?
Okay. So thank you for giving me the idea. So after 2.5 years of living in Amsterdam, in a way, well, I got very suicidal. I was always suicidal as a kid. If I get close to a balcony, this kind of feeling, and the fear of the void. There was always a void inside me, and I was afraid of being sucked into it. And of course, my sexuality or girlfriend were kind of all messed up. And then one day, I did find somebody, and we had this amazing, passionate weekend. Everybody say, "Oh, again." Oh, thank you. That's so nice. And then after 3 days, she told me that she was married and that she had to leave to go see her friend. But for me, at that point, I was saying, wow, I must be worth something because she's risking her marriage just to be with me. So even if she said that, it was like, oh, wow, I must be, worth something. I must be good. Not be good sexually, but just like, I must exist somehow. And then she did, we didn't see each other for a week. And then when I saw her, we went to the cafe, and as I spoke to her, something inside came up. And it's the first time I was telling somebody, I feel sad. I feel a hole inside. And I felt tears coming to my eyes. And as I was telling her, then she told me, well, Guy, we can't see each other anymore. Okay. Wow. Thank you. And I left my body at that point. I went to get some beers. I smoked. I cannot do drugs because my body totally rejects drugs. I'm very lucky for that. But I got drunk and smoked. And at that moment, I felt that if I had a gun, I would have shot myself. Just because it was just too much. I really felt, and it was at the same time as in Berlin, the Berlin Wall was falling down. The same day. Kind of a metaphor. In Berlin, the wall was coming down for freedom. Here, she was no more there. So I felt all the sharp edges of bricks falling over me, and I felt like I was shredded apart and filled with blood. And for the next 2 months, I was a kind of a zombie. So at one day, my fellow students kind of say, "Oh, Guy, we don't see you anymore. You're nowhere. What's happening with you?" So they invited me to a party, and I was just sitting there having my beer, my cigarette. In my head, I wasn't speaking, but all the conversation were like ping pong. And then for no reason whatsoever, I turned to my neighbor, which was just there, and I told him, if I had the gun, I would kill myself. Out of the blue. And he was like, "But Guy, you're so happy all the time." And he didn't run away, he didn't laugh. And then the people there cared for me. And that was the first time in my life. And it's like, wow, that was such a change. And I started to, with their help, started to feel good and to know that actually, so that's why I call Amsterdam my family, my second family, because my first family, that's something else. Now I'm going to summarize all of this in one show. No, okay, so with all this love I got from these people, welcome, bonjour. So we all did this, woo! So you have to do it, woo! You have to do it like this. With the arms, 1, 2, 3, go. No, you do. 1, 2, yeah, you can. Everybody say yes, you can. There we go. Thank you. Now you're part of the team. That's right. My life got better at that point, you know, tiny bit better. I did find a new girlfriend who was kind of leaving her partner, so she didn't want a relationship. I couldn't handle relationships, so we were just kind of, you know, fine for each other because we didn't want anything, but we needed comfort, kind of situation. But anyway, and in the meantime, I was always hiding in my studio. So like I was basically homeless for many years, always hiding in my studio. Because you know I was worthless, you know. So why should I own the place? But anyway, so in Amsterdam, with the help of my friends, I had my first ever apartment. Everybody say yeah. I had an apartment. I had the show in the gallery. I had this friend who could give me comfort. So finally, a guy who actually looks like you, and his name is Wim, who's a yoga teacher. He's amazing. He felt like he do like sailor's knots with his body. It's just like, wow. Anyway, so he always say, come to my studio class. So I did. So you said, my life is good, right? It's finally going well. I'm relaxing. And after the yoga, during the meditation, suddenly disappeared in my head. A memory, I was 30 years old, and then I saw this huge face on top of me. I saw my baby arms and stuff. I heard screaming, I heard slapping. And it's like, what's this? Is this true? Or is this just kind of imagination? So I stayed with that. And then when I did come back to Canada, I asked my mom. You know, I said, well, you know, I had this memory. Did something happen when I was young? And I said, why are you asking? I said, well, you know, I had this thing. And I said, oh, yeah, sure. You know, you were 3 years old and there was a 16-year-old niece. And I just caught her, you know, she was abusing you while giving you your bath and stuff like that. And then I kicked her out and that was that. And for her, it was like, you know, we bought a fridge that year and that's that. And if I had never asked, again, I would have never known. So I went from there and I said, well, maybe it's not important. Maybe it doesn't matter, you know. She sure doesn't say that it matters, you know. So I went to the bookstore. I don't know if you guys like to read or go to the bookstore or do research on the internet. You know, that's the way we do stuff now. And I went to see the section on abuse. And I found the book, which was The Courage to Heal. And I started shaking. I said, okay, I don't know. I bought the book. Eventually, I got the courage I got a coffee. I rolled my cigarettes. And then I started reading the book. And it felt like all my life problems were all there. You know, suicidal, self-doubts, fucked up sexuality. It's like everything. And so like, and inside I screamed. At the same time, I was happy. Because I felt I found a door to solutions in my life. So later with this, I just learned the wisdom of the body. The body loves you. Your body loves you. And it will never give you what you cannot handle. If you force, you know, say, oh, is it true, those memories and stuff like that, it's going to give you more pain. When your body says it's fine, it's safe, it's going to release what it needs for you to do. So this is, I started to do an exhibition in Canada, what is called the family show, and about relationship. And it is a baby script, and this is a performance, so I kind of interacted with it. And it's a metaphor, but in the baby script, I poured a bottle of wine, aftershave, because the smell is very much important for memory. And anyway, I won't tell you more because that's not the point. That's not we're here today. It's in the book and it's online. But basically, what I meant to say is that I had no idea of what had happened in my youth. And it's only when I felt at peace for the first time in my life that memories came up. And I would say I'm one of the lucky ones that my mother confirmed it, as opposed to getting in a family of denial, or, so they say, oh, don't talk about this, don't do this, we don't want to hear, but at least, I'm lucky. So I came back to Canada, and this is me, and everybody say, oh! And point like I'm pointing. There you go. Oh! What do you see? That's George. Say hi, George.
Hi, George.
Yeah, hi, George. So I worked in museums for 20 years. So I was an artist, and then I worked with museums, and I love working with kids. I love working with adults, old people. We started to have projects for in hospitals, in the psychiatric wards, mothers, young mothers, pregnant mothers, homeless people. And I always felt comfortable because for me they're people, they're not labels. So I was doing that for 20 years, and then I got a new boss. I would say, ooh, a new boss. Say it again. Ooh. And what did he want to cut? He wanted to cut
Our social stuff.
social stuff, money, and all of that. So they were forcing me to say, oh, you look tired. Like in the art school. What did they say in the art school? Remember? Before they kicked me out?
You're confused.
I'm confused. Aren't you tired of people telling you what you are? Yeah. So they told me confused, and in the museum, the new boss was thinking, oh, gee, you're so tired. You can't work with kids anymore. You have to work in the office and do paperwork. You know. Oh, man. And inside me, I knew I would die. I didn't know why, but it's like, that's not who I am. I need to work with people. And then my father passed away. And then I asked, am I doing my life? Or am I doing my father's life? Am I doing my mother's life? My family's life? And decided to quit my job and to become a speaker. Because by then, I started to teach art by myself, write, how could I say, introduce people to art, introduce people to music in libraries, in art centers. And then I say, I'm going to do that full time. So and everybody says, oh, wow!
Oh, wow!
Yeah, I did! And then a few months, I did like this. Ah! Everybody, what did I do? The good boy in me freaked out. He did. In your hand. He did. He freaked out. Yeah. He freaked out because I always had to be the good boy. You know what the good boy does? He follows the rule. Or the good girl. Quiet. Doesn't say anything anymore. And for the first time, I was doing something for myself. To actually follow my dream, my instinct. So I couldn't sleep anymore. Anxiety attacks, couldn't breathe. The doctors wanted me to take anti-pill stuff. No. And then I discovered, well, actually, what can I do? And then there's something, again, listening to the body inside, said I heard people get together and they laugh together. Huh? They just come together and laugh. I said, that's crazy, you know. But then I was, and my last straw, I said, okay, I'm shy, I'm scared of people, I'm gonna try it. And then I discovered laughter yoga. Everybody goes, Justin, like this. With the eyes. No? You're good. There you go. And that was a revelation, laughter yoga.
Just wait, we have someone that's offered laughter yoga to us, so.
No.
Yeah. Irony. And laughter yoga, it was amazing. Basically, I felt alive for the first time in years and I slept like crazy. But that's me. And then as I use humor in my talks, I say, how can I bring more humor? So I took a clowning workshop. And so that was my first class. And I was so bad at clowning. Because, I just couldn't be free expressing myself. So on the last day of clowning, where we had to go on stage and perform, I came to the idea, I said, okay, I'm not good, I'm gonna fail for sure, so I'm gonna be the biggest failure in history. And that's what I went on stage with. I said, doesn't matter if I fell. So I felt scared, so I played scared. I felt shy, so I felt shy. I felt to run away. So basically I was myself all the time, and the people laughed. And they applauded because I wasn't playing a clown. I was just being myself, showing my feeling as I truly was. And then I wrote to Patch Adams because I found that humor had really helped me so much in my life. So I said, I want to write a book on the healing powers of humor. And then he answered me back. And he said, well, Guy, I love your idea of your book, but I'm too busy, to do an interview for you. So you must come to meet me in Guatemala. Everybody said, ooh, yeah. I was scared. I mean, who am I to actually, I don't speak Spanish. I was scared of flying and I was a clown. I mean, I just did a 6-day workshop on clowning. So I went to therapy and the person there asked me, what do you really want? And it was the first time I gave permission to listen. And it was like a small voice in kind of a scream, I want to go. And so I left for Guatemala. And there you go. So what's a clown trip? A clown trip, we go for a week. And it's not professional clowns. And anybody can go. It's from all across the States, from Italy, Germany. And we go to hospitals and we go to orphanages. And the idea is just to play with the kids or play with the adults. I can't perform. And actually, Patch said that if you fail as a clown, that's your success. Because failing is what clowns do all the time. As long as you're honestly failing, then that's great. So you can never do it wrong. And let's see if I can be good enough to show. And then he said to do this. And then he said to do this. That's the feeling in the
memories that you leave other was so precious.
Uno, dos, tres.
I don't do clown stuff, so I just do whatever I can.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I can't count more than that. You can jump more than I can count.
And going in the streets also.
Ooh la la! Ooh la la! Ooh la la! Ooh la la! ¡Qué veo! ¡Qué veo! ¡Es una cueva! ¡Es una
Okay, and that's basically how to get a bunch of clowns back on the bus. You can imagine that's not easy. It won't feel like a Groucho Marx movie where you just kind of need to push everyone in there. So, I was scared of doing that. And the first time, we got together and Patch was with us and say, how do you feel? And I told him, I'm scared. And he was very worried. He said, why are you scared? Because for me, the unexpected always meant danger. For which he replied, well, for me, the unexpected is exciting. Because there's something new that's going to happen. So that was it's amazing how the same situation can have so totally different reactions to it. So the first time we went to a center for children with psychiatric and physical disabilities, I stayed behind in the bus because I just, who am I to do this? But then I heard everybody running around outside. So I just said, well, I'm not, I'm here. So I put on my clown nose, I went down the bus, and there was this kid in a wheelchair, heavily handicapped. And I looked into his eyes, and I totally forgot myself. And I just started to play with him. Exactly. It's true. And that was one of the first lessons, that it's not about me. It's about what you're bringing. And then we went to a orphanage, and there was like 300 kids, all screaming and jumping, and somehow this little girl, I had a puppet, she kind of fell in love with me, and I didn't speak Spanish, so she hung around, and she was helping me with the other little kids, telling them to sit down or to be quiet, and she wanted to be my little helper all the time. So we spent the whole 2 hours playing together. That was wonderful. Yeah, really. And then suddenly, ding! The bell rang because it was lunchtime. So she had to go, but then she started to cry. So I picked her up, and I just tried my best to, make her feel better because she didn't want to go. And then one of the assistants came and she explained that it was just lunch and that we would see each other after lunch. So she dried her tears, I kind of let her down gently, and then she went to see her friends, She's over there entering the building, little Yorberly. And then as soon as she's inside, I felt my void, I felt this, it's like when I finish my week in Guatemala, I can go back home to my family, to something. But for her, this is her life. This is where it stops. And I felt this amazing sadness inside of me. And I just felt like my void was opening under me. And I just felt in the blackness of it. And as I felt, suddenly there was this kind of light. And it's like in my mind came, well, maybe I cannot make your life better. Maybe you'll stay in orphanage. But as long as I'm here, I'm going to give you all that I have. And when those words came out, suddenly it's like the void closed. I came out, and then I became a love clown. That it opened my heart to this idea that I'm there to help other people. During the day, I was now doing this, but at night, when I tell you that the body only tells you stuff when you're ready, as much as the day my heart was open, at night, more memories came back. More violence came back of when I was a scout at 8 years old. More, and it's just like, so I had this double life. I would sleep 2 hours per night. But I was in an environment where people could support me. And the biggest, one of the fellow clowns was a policeman from Seattle. And I always was scared of authority. So for the first time in my mind, I said I was raped. The first time I used that word. Before I was, I was sexually abused. Just the nice, correct word to say. But there it just became, something illegal was done with me, something aggressive. A crime was done against me. And here, one of the clowns is a policeman. And I hate authority. I've been always scared of people in authority. But he's a clown. But he's a policeman, he's a clown. So eventually I asked to speak at the supper. And then I told them about what happened to me when I was a Boy Scout. And everybody kind of cried and gave me hugs. And my life kept opening up and changing. So when the environment is there for you, the love comes out. And I came back from my first trip in Guatemala, discovering something I never knew existed before. And this may be surprising to you. I didn't know that love existed. I had no idea what was love. I thought I knew. When I left to go to Guatemala, I thought that my work at the museum, I was happy 95% of my life, that was the best job. But when I was clowning, I saw actually no, 5% of the time working in the museum was just my life. 95% of my life is doing that, giving love to the world. Bringing healing, bringing love. But I also came with the idea, then I was married, I had a kid. I said, my life is good, I have a good life. But then in Guatemala, I discovered what was real love. And I said, actually, my wife is more like my roommate. She's not a confidant, we don't support each other. We don't know each other, we just kind of live together. I didn't know. I just didn't know what was love because I didn't know it existed. So I went by giving love to others, suddenly I started to receive it. And that's the more I did. And then I went to Peru. And in Peru, it was a very different trip because in Peru, instead of going to hospitals, we went to where the people live. So they live in shacks by the Amazon River, where most of them don't have electricity or running water. So I would be going physically in their environment. But there, what I saw, well, you can just see how happy the kids are. And then there was this crazy thunderstorm at one point. And then everybody ran in the rain, and then they threw themselves in the ground, and then they started to do like this. Do you know what they were making? They were making mud angels. In Canada, we have snow angels. So in their dreary environment, they actually were making mud angels. And then as soon as the rain stopped, they started to play football or soccer again. And then I saw something I never saw before. All around the field, there were little groups of children, like an 8-year-old boy holding the hand of a 6-year-old girl, with a 4-year-old girl, and then with a baby. They were all coming together, and they were so full of love. And then it hit me. I said, this is what humanity is when it's not civilized. This is our true nature. So in my first trip, I learned that love exists, but I was still disconnected from humanity. And in that trip, suddenly, I felt connected with all of you. You know, that we are together. We belong together. We shouldn't be scared of each other and stuff like that. So each time I climbed, always I go there to give love, but each time there's something coming back to me. I'm sure in the things that you do, the more you give to the kids or the adults, at one point there's something you're receiving and you had no idea before. You might, one experience, one smile. And these kids, in museums, like I said, I was working for them for 20 years. They had, good education, money, clothes, everything in Canada, but their lights were shut. Their creativity was shut. And these kids, they were so alive, And then I went to India. So I took away the nose because I felt I'm not a clown. I'm just me. And then still kind of shy, but I started with a friend to do it in the street. And there was this lady, woman begging in the street with leprosy. And they told us leprosy is not dangerous. They don't know what it is, but it's not contagious. At first I said, oh, is it really? What is it all about? I have no idea. But anyway, it just wants that out of my mind. And so I just came and, got close to her. And my feeling was that, when was the last time she was touched? When was the last time she was hugged? So we went to the market, we bought her flowers, we bought her food, and we just stayed with her and sang her songs. You are important for us. You're a person. And then I went to Russia. And in Russia, I did other things in between, but in Russia, I was invited by this person, Alexander, he does house calls to families. And he invited me to come along. And this family has this little boy, Kulya, who's all hooked up to machines. And we were invited in their home. So we come there and we play with balloons and make them sing. And then suddenly the machine starts to beep because the girl was just maybe, the little boy was just, I don't know, too excited or something. So the whole craziness, clown craziness just stopped, and the mom went right away with the dials and just to clean the tubes and stuff like that, and so the father. But then when we left, it's like they came and gave us the biggest hugs because we were there for them, you know. And then I thought about the idea of sacrifice, and sacrifice is such, not it's a bad word, but it's a word that's been so much misused. But this idea that you no longer do something for yourself. I mean, how much are they doing this for their kids? So I thought, I tried to help them, but then they thank me because, even if I couldn't heal their life, I was there for them. I was there to help them being together as one. And so these little stories are all to say that for me, the clowning were all experiences where the more I take risk, the more I give to others, the more I learn. And this is the teachings, I could say about what I've learned. And it was interesting because Brady, in his, what were you telling me in your studies, that there were 5 levels of
5 realms of well-being.
Were 5 realms of well-being, which were
Physical, emotional, cognitive, social, and spiritual.
Yeah, and this is basically the same thing I came to my own realization. And that there's the mind, which is the abstract thought, there's the heart, the body, taking care of yourself, listening to your instinct, listening to what your body is sending as messages, the soul, and the universe is basically, you're not here for yourself. We're here for all of us together. But how could I say? This is kind of not so much another lecture, another talk, but it's the idea that why I call it the 5 dimensions of being, is that if you don't take care of your mind, of your heart, of your body, of your spirit, or your connection with the universe, it will, how could I say, it will bring you to places where you don't want to go.